Cool tools. Maybe you remember those when you were growing up too. It's something that I always wanted, and of course they weren't even real tools, they were cool tools. And fortunately, I ended up getting normal tools instead. And I do the same for my kids. When they were little, they wanted little tool sets. And instead of getting them the fake tool sets, I just buy them the real thing. And even if it wasn't the best quality, at least it was usable as a real tool. But today I'd like to talk about tools, tool quality, and when I feel like it's okay to go lower quality versus higher quality. So I have a range of tools in quality around the shop. And over the years, I've learned some things it's worth it to get the quality item, and some things it's really not. Or it's one of those things, if you're going to use it a lot, get the quality one, and if you're not going to use it a lot, the low quality can at least work. So let's talk about at least what I found that can be a decently low quality thing and last a long time. A few items that I think is at least okay are going to be your basic screwdrivers, a number 2, not necessarily number 1. And as you can see, we got a Walmart brand, we got Pittsburgh brand here. And I would like to comment that the quality of Harbor Freight over the years has gone up drastically. And they have their low quality stuff and they have their high quality stuff, which still isn't nearly as expensive as the big name brands. And at the same time, the big name brand qualities have generally been going down. So I've got some USA made Sears stuff from way back in the day, the Craftsman, like little micro wrenches. They're fantastic. They're made in the USA. They are very good. They're high quality. The same set today is made in China. It's not the same quality, does not have the same tolerances. I had to buy some replacements, and I was thoroughly disappointed in that, unfortunately. So this is one of the things where what I would tell you 10 years ago or 20 years ago is completely different on what I may tell you today. So a few things like number 2 screwdrivers, you can get away with it, but the tips do round out. You can see this is actually number 1 Pittsburgh, and this is the number 2 on the heart. And the number 2 heart is not doing well. It's lost its coating. It's starting to get all messed up, and it will end up destroying your flatheads or your Phillips heads over time. So that's something to where if it's not being used much, not a big deal. Number 2, number 3. But you get into the number 1s where you have really tiny screws and you might want to go a little higher quality. One thing that I do not skimp on quality though is Allen drivers or Allen wrenches, whatever you want to call them. I've got these Settalosi wrenches from 25 plus years ago at this point, at least 20 years, but probably closer to 25. And they are as hard and sharp as the day that I bought them pretty much. And the thing about the cheap Allen wrenches is that, especially with the smaller size that we use in RC, you will strip out your Allen wrench and or your actual Allen head on your screw. And when that happens, it doesn't matter how high quality your set of tools is, the next one that goes into it is either going to damage the screw more or damage the head of the tool itself. Now, if it's hard enough and it's a soft head screw, then your tool is going to be fine, but it's still going to mar it up, and you may have more troubles long term. So I never compromise on these. These days, the Vanquish tools is what I found as far as an RC brand, and Weeha is my choice for everything else. So all my tools that I use on the CNC machines, all Weeha. Now I actually do have an old set of Craftsman that I got from Sears way back in the day. Absolutely fantastic. It's T-handle wrench. It's got like a big fat handle on it. Those things, really hard tips. I've never had one break on me, and I use those inside my CNC machine flawlessly. And it's also nice where I have a little tool cart and I drilled a bunch of holes in it, and each one has their own spot. Super handy. But for getting into weird spaces, for I need a set of standards, I've got the Weeha. And every couple of years, I got a lot of people coming in and out of the shop here, so I sometimes unfortunately lose tools, and so every couple of years I'll either get a new set or get the replacements for the ones that have gone missing. And that's just a side effect of having a lot of people coming in and out using tools. Now I've gone to essentially having a tool crib and locking up the nicer ones so that they don't walk away, but that's something to keep in mind, that if you do have kids that might be borrowing your tools, maybe you have a set for yourself and you have a set for them that they can borrow from, because As a kid, I would always lose that 10mm wrench. I can tell you that right now. So never in my shop do we skimp on Allen wrenches. It doesn't work out for us. And of course we're using them heavily, but even one time is enough to strip out a screw head, and then you're pretty much SOL if you're trying to get something apart. And then you gotta take a Dremel or something to make it into a flat head, and it's just a whole big deal. We don't want to see that. Nut drivers. So since nut drivers are driving larger nuts than what an Allen would typically be, which makes me wonder, does a 7 fit on a 7? You can kind of get away with the lower quality on nut drivers. However, you're taking a risk. You are taking a risk, especially if you're using them a lot, that they will round out. The tolerances aren't generally they're just not going to be tight on cheaper stuff. And so you may find that they will round off your nuts a little more frequently. So I also will end up going with higher quality drivers. These are from Vanquish right here. I've got all the sizes for the various things that you may need on an RC car. And the Vanquish tools are also very high quality, so I know I can trust them to at least be accurate. Or if there is a problem with a tool, I can give them a call and say, hey, this one was, potentially machined wrong, or what may happen. You never know in manufacturing. And I haven't heard of anything wrong happening, but just, they're a US-based company, and so they'll at least give you the support. Easier to get support than from Sears at this point. Boy, let me tell you. But I digress on that. Along with the Allens, the nut drivers, I don't like to compromise on them, but we use them a lot. And I feel like it's one of those things that you could go lower quality, but you got to be really careful. You can't over torque. You got to really watch your, how good of a fit is it? And if it's not a good fit, then, maybe it's time to get a different set of tools. With the cheap stuff, they wear out quickly, especially ones with larger heads, higher torque loads. It's not going to take that very well. So that's one of the ones, 50-50. But I end up going higher quality. Now, body reamers. Because I've lost so many body reamers at this point, I have bought a low quality one. And to tell you the truth, this is something that I don't feel bad going low quality on. And the reason is that it's only supposed to be puncturing Lexan. Lexan is very soft, and even a mild steel, doesn't even have to be tool steel, is going to stay sharp for a very long time, as long as you don't misuse it. I would be very surprised if this Chinese-made, just generic Amazon brand Nua fan ever has a problem, because it's just a body reamer. And that's one of those things, like, do you really need the $40 body reamer? Probably not, unless you're doing a lot of bodies. And in that case, yeah, it's going to stay sharper for longer, and you may find it useful to actually pay for it. But if you're not using it a lot, like me, maybe doing a couple bodies a year tops, I think a cheap body reamer is something that will be okay. As much as I hate to say, hey, buy the cheap tool, yeah, it's gonna be all right. Now, here's an interesting one here. I have a set of Traxxas body shears, and I have a set of the Nuafan body shears that came with this reamer. Identical copies. As you can see, they made this Chinese one with nearly an identical copy of the Traxxas ones. And of course, there's not that many ways to shape a pair of body shears. So, you're not going to get a lot of variation, but the handles in particular, you can see that it looks like they actually took a set of Traxxas ones, used it to make the mold, because I can see in this set of brand new, never used pair, that there's lines in it that looks like it was a used pair that rolled around in a toolbox. There are cuts. There are literally cuts into this mold where this was somebody's secondhand pair of Traxxas shears, and they used that to make a mold from it. And it came with all of the little scratches, all the hazing. And now that I look at it, these handles really aren't attached very well to the set of blades themselves. And if we look at it, the grinding on here is it's pretty similar, I suppose. It's let's take a look at the finish. The one thing with cheap scissors is they wear out relatively quickly at the pivot over time, and then the shearing action isn't really tight and it doesn't make a good cut. For a couple of bodies, these will be just fine. Actually, these are really tight, and I can see it's already starting to rub the backside of the blade there. They just don't feel good, to tell you the truth. Our rivet is of lower quality, but you know, for a couple of bodies here and there, you're going to be fine. If you're doing a lot of bodies or you want something that's going to last you a long period of time, definitely a higher quality brand. Traxxas is known for being good quality on their stuff. Made in Taiwan versus made in China. Taiwan factories are generally a lot better materials. Not only the processes, but the materials that come out of Taiwan are going to be the higher quality ones. Pretty sure these drivers are made in Taiwan. I know the Losi ones were made in Taiwan. Weeha, I am not sure. I want to say a lot of these are Germany made at this point. I'd have to go and look. It depends on which particular version or model. Like the Ergo Stars are slightly different line than what these are. Let's see, does it say? You know, these are you know, chrome vanadium instead of just being like a generic steel. And these do not have any marks of made in, but I'm pretty sure most of this is Germany stuff, which also comes, you know, better materials, better tolerances typically. So, you know, just like the body reamer, if you're going to be doing a lot of stuff, or if you just want it to last a very long time, then going with a higher quality on the scissors in particular is going to be a good bet for you. But if you only need to get a couple of bodies done, maybe you don't know if you're going to stick around in the RC hobby. The cheap stuff, it can work, but I will go back to the recommendation that please don't cheap out on your Allen wrenches. You will have a hard time long term, and you're going to strip out most of your heads, especially with the 3mm screws that we use. The stuff that has 2.5mm drivers on the heads, like this this socket or cap head, that's not as bad. But when you get into the smaller, the 2mm and the 1.5mm of a button head, the cheap stuff rounds out so easily, especially if you have these angle drivers on the tips. As you can see, these have angled, or whatever they're called, where you can offset drive. Nice brand, no problems at all, but when you get into a cheap one, they strip out so fast, so incredibly fast. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. That's the one thing I will hold strong on, is don't cheap out on your Allen wrenches. So there we go. That's a little bit of my opinion on tools, when it's okay to go cheap and when you should go quality. So I bet you have some of your own opinions, and I'd love to hear them down below. Maybe you've got a little different take on it. Maybe a number 2 for you always needs to be high quality. And I tell you, when we go to number 1, we also go to Weeha drivers for all of our number 1s, because we do have some products that use a number 1, like these little stainless screws in the side. And I know you may say, why would you use a Phillips head, or that may be number 0. Why would you use a Phillips head on these? Well, when you get this small, you're going to strip out an Allen almost no matter what. You know, this is going to be a 1mm or a 0.8, I think, on an Allen key. And the manufacturing tolerances for the actual screws at that size become an issue. So we've ended up going to the Phillips driver. We've gone back and forth now. We started with this, we went to Allen thinking, okay, it's gonna be higher quality, and now we're going back to that. I'd have to look to see if this is a 0 or number 1. I mean, I can test with this number 1, but it's Pittsburgh, so the tip isn't exactly as sharp as it should be. Okay, number 1. Yeah, this is a number 1. So again, though, I would only use a high quality driver in this, because I don't want to strip it out long term. You know, we take apart a lot of motors, we put them back together. So there we go. You give me your ideas on that, and I'd love to hear them. So tools, cool tools. I definitely love them, and maybe you do too. So as always, thanks for tuning in. Have a great day. As a quick aside, the one time that I will generally choose a cheap tool when I should use something that's a higher quality one is when I need to modify the tool, and it's only for a single job that's probably never going to happen again. So as you can see on this number 2, let's see, 3/16 by 4 inch, 3/16 slotted or flathead screwdriver. The width of the head has been ground down and modified. And I really don't want to take an expensive tool to do this And as long as I don't mess up the temper, you can see that there has been some discoloration, and I did mess up the temper on this. I ground it a little too fast, a little too hard. I'm gonna choose a cheap tool first, and if it doesn't work, then I'll modify an expensive tool. But there's a lot of tools that I've made over the years that are very specific one-offs for a weird job, and I will usually choose that cheap tool first. Let me know if you do the same.